moving forward, I would like to request Honorable Advisor to Lieutenant Governor, Mr. K.K. Sharma, Director NCERT, Mr. Dr. Rishikesh Senapati, Director SCERT, Professor Reena Pandita, to inaugurate the logo of newly established SCERT-JK.
Please declare it open, sir.
So, I have great pleasure in announcing that the SCERT is a very young organization. It has already developed its logo. Mrs. Veena and her colleagues have been working on it. Yesterday we had an occasion to see it, and the final logo that is being released, I have great pleasure in announcing its adoption by the SCERT. We'll request the director to write to us, and I am confident that the motto and the goals that are included will guide the organization and all of us in Jammu and Kashmir when it comes to education, particularly education of school children. Thank you. Okay.
So, by means of research, let's adjust, may we start. Excel in entire ingenious and hidden efficiencies, enlighten the whole existence of human beings. Thank you all. We are highly indebted. Now, I would like to request Mr. K.K. Sharma, Advisor to Honorable Lieutenant Governor JK, a man with vision and vigil, who has been on forefront to put the system of education on track in JKUT with his resilient approach. Sir, over to you to present his key address.
Very good morning to all of you. I'm delighted to be amongst you here and would like to first of all recognize our dear Dr. Senapati, Director of the NCERT, with whom we have a very cordial and loving and an educational relationship, because we look upon the NCERT and him as our mentors, and it's not any week that goes without we disturbing him, and not once has he not agreed to. Professor Veena Pandita, our Chairman of BOS and also the Director of the State Council for Education Research and Training. Other officers from the SCERT, Mr. Farooq Peer, our Director of Academics, and other distinguished participants here from other organizations, Dr. Renu Nanda, the Dean Education, Jammu University, all other invitees to this conference, participants, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to begin by complimenting SCERT that on their own they have taken this initiative to organize this conference so that next steps for implementing the national education policy are taken without loss of time in Jammu and Kashmir. We held two conferences on the national education policy on higher education, and I would like to mention that they were done at the behest of the Honorable Lieutenant Governor, who took very keen interest that we move forward. This particular one is a SCERT initiative. We had not, as government, of course, we have been wanting that in our articulation, we are saying that it's the teachers and the teaching community and the academic community. Once they start talking about the national education policy and they start understanding it and they say how it has to be implemented, that's when it will move forward. So in this particular case, this initiative has come to us from Professor Veena. So thank you very much. Congratulations. You are a young organization in the SCERT, and very soon you have assembled all of us here and experts from other organizations. Matter of satisfaction and pride, and you need to be complimented and congratulated. And also thank you for working on mission of national on technology. Technology already is being used in a big way. It's also a matter of great satisfaction that with COVID, the way our education system undertook the challenge, people have already developed certain capacities, which is a good news. The COVID is going to go away in some time, some months. However, the skills in a positive way that all of us have ended in acquiring, I think they're going to be very helpful for blended learning as well as for online learning in the coming days, years. And with reference to teacher education, there are some important recommendations in the policy. Just excuse me for a second, please. With reference to the teachers' education, there are important recommendations. I would like our people from the academia, the SCRT, the BOS people, our educationists, as was mentioned that perhaps our directors are not there today. I know that Anuradhaji is there in the Back to Village 3 visits, but there are all of us, I hear others listening. The B.Ed programs has been recast under the new policy. The 1-year B.Ed goes to 2-year B.Eds. It talks of 4-year integrated B.Ed. I'm happy that Jammu University already has a very developed Department of Education where integrated B.Ed is either being provided or it can be provided with the resources that they have. So the policy has really recognized the teachers and their training as a very, very important aspect. The teacher education and the policy says that the faculty profiles in departments of education will necessarily aim to be diverse, but the teaching field research experience will be highly valued. Faculty with training in areas of social sciences. This is about universities for their contribution to the B.Ed degrees. So faculties with training in areas of social sciences, they are directly relevant to school education. For example, psychology, child development, linguistics, sociology, philosophy, economics, and political science, as well as from science education, mathematics education, social sciences will be attracted and retained in teacher education institutions to strengthen multidisciplinary education of teachers and provide rigor in conceptual development. I just want to mention again, here we are more senior level people. We have to all recognize that teacher is the central pillar or a central person who will drive the national education policy. Sometimes in critical comments, at times observations are made about teachers not going to their areas or not being in the school. However, I'm sure there should be exceptions and they should become more and more exceptions in the coming future. The policy cannot be run by only by the goodwill and the bonhomie that exists at the top, at the level of the national government, at the level of state government. And I think we are on the very right track of making the policy understood by everybody by conferences like this. The conferences are held at a higher level earlier. This is also high level, but we are already reaching out to now the staff, the deputy directors, joint directors. I would request that more meetings are held at the level of headmasters of the schools, at the level of principals of the schools, so that they are speaking. The college and the school teachers and lecturers are speaking on the different chapters. So our director SCRT Vinaji is already in the right way to constitute these 8 teams in Jammu and translation. But in terms of common sense, it seems to me that this is quite nice because some of the words are so complicated in English language and sometimes they are complicated in Hindi. And either way, if 2 pages are available, I don't know exactly what you had in mind when you mentioned about the bilingual, books. But if books are like this, I think it can also be useful. And I'm sure people with the knowledge of how to write books have gone a little more into it. And so all this we will have to enable. Moving forward, already I think observations have been made about curriculum. Skill gaps, this is an important point. It's not only the fact that children have to get jobs. I think we are just forgetting some of the simple challenges in a positive way. The countryside is such a nice place to live. We have ended up making very big cities in India, metros like Delhi and Calcutta, And we all know in winter what kind of a pollution is there in Delhi. You have to implement schemes for odd and even and all that. So India, the way we are, our population, we are still going to be living in countryside, and in a nice way, because now with the internet you can be located in a rural area and your quality of life is very good. But our school children, do they know basic things? For example, cultivating some vegetables, how, for example, eggs are hatched. People have just lost knowledge about these things which are so intimately related to our existence. Some organic vegetable, how composting is made, how you could, grow some fruits. So even simple aspects of vocational education in the field of horticulture, agriculture, cooking for that matter, need to be reintegrated back into our education, so that this knowledge of how human beings and the man remains in interface with the nature is there. In the conference that we had, ladies and gentlemen, on higher education, hosted in Kashmir University and Jammu University 2-3 weeks ago, the vice chancellors of our agriculture universities, particularly of Scouts Kashmir and also the vice chancellor of Scouts Jammu, both indicated a lot of possibility of vocational education which is linked to these two streams. And considering the diversity of plantation and the diversity of flora and fauna in Jammu and Kashmir, I think our school curriculum at an appropriate stage has to recognize that how our children can become aware of this, medicinal oils, and things are happening, but the convergence has not taken place. For example, with the help of this, in Jammu, we have this famous CSIR lab. It was called earlier Regional Research Laboratory, and these days they call it Triple IT. I think Integrated Institute of Technology or whatever. It's a very high-end lab. So Dr. Reddy is the current director. They are setting up two units which are related to medicinal plant oil extraction. One is in Kathua and one is coming in Kupwara. Now, as it will happen that, if you ask 12th class students, they may not know anything about these things. The question is why? Because the plants and the things that will be the input for these two units, I'm sure that is being grown in our tehsils and in our villages over there. But just our education has not created that kind of a skill sets where people will know about these things. So I think this great document, the new education policy, national education policy that has come, it is a blessing for us that it has come at the right time. It gives us an opportunity to know about ourselves, about our communities, about our flora, fauna, and school education departments and leaderships have this huge role of how to produce textbook material and how to have the curriculum so that what I am mentioning on the basis of what is being discussed becomes part of what we learn in the schools. Rest of the thing, of course, I have a slide here from my earlier presentation which talks of what could be a probable road map for action in Jammu and Kashmir. It is done more like a management, exercise, but then, for affecting any change, you have to look at establishing a vision. Then you have to do a situation analysis where we are, identify gaps, barriers, and the challenges. Of course, the financial assessment has to be there, and we'll do all that. And then make short, mid-term, and long-term goals. Because I think if you make goals, some kind of bar charts and have timelines, it always helps us to do anything. Strategy for change. I'm just mentioning these things because what we are doing, what I'm reading, and what we are doing today is already part of that. But it's good also to recognize that when we want to deliver a big change, it's good to have a strategy. It's good to have a strategic plan. That's what we also learned at our trainings. The last training of 1 week which I had as a secretary to Government of India in Harvard, 1 week they spent on this strategic plan, making goals, and then of course, taking approvals from the authorizing environment, which in the case of all of us are the governments, and then moving forward. I have already talked about that at school level, we have good number of children going to school, but we will deal with the percentages that are not able to go into schools. We have already set up the task force for implementing the national education policy for school level. It's under the chair of the principal secretary, who has not joined us. I don't know why. He's occupied, but it would have been very valuable to have him here and speak to us and also exchange with us. And of course, our directors and the SCERT, our members will have academicians there as well. We will request Professor Senapati to help us in choosing academicians for that, so that we are having a good committee to move forward. So I think having said all that, it is good for all of us to read the last page of this policy document, the NEP. Now that is good in the sense that it says that how things will happen. Para 27.2 talks of that implementation will be guided by the following principle. First, implementation of the spirit and intent of the policy is the most critical matter. Second, it's important to implement the policy initiatives in a phased manner, as each policy point has several steps, each of which requires the previous step to be implemented successfully. Third is prioritization will be important in ensuring optimal sequencing of policy points. Fourth is comprehensiveness in implementation will be the key. So I won't read all of it. However, education is a concurrent subject, and a lot of thinking will occur in Government of India. The NCERT, which is the think tank and also provides practical solutions to the complex problems of education. Professor Senapati mentioned about the manner in which curriculum will have to be developed, about the elementary education, early childhood care and education. That is something really we look forward to, because while some children in city atmosphere or some other atmosphere end up getting exposed to nice visual images, nice interactions on the computers, and nice interactions within their own families. But the majority of our Indian children, I think, particularly in the countryside, they grow naturally and nicely, but there is perhaps no conscious attempt to expose them in a very logical manner to new thoughts, and also their nutrition and appropriate toys, color exposure to them. So this recognition by our country, it's a matter of great satisfaction that our government, led by the Honorable Prime Minister and the Union Cabinet, has approved this policy, and therefore bringing to closure debates which had been going on for long years. Veena ji referred to the Subramaniam Committee recommendations. They had been also put in the open domain. However, Government of India chose at that point of time in 2018 to redo these things. The recommendations of the Subramaniam Committee have not been lost sight of. They were fed to the new committee under Dr. Kasturi Rangan. And this committee, which had really experts from abroad, I'm just mentioning to you that Professor Manjul Bhargava is a professor at Princeton. He's a professor at 2 universities. And he took almost 1 year sabbatical to help in writing this policy. And then, of course, it had Indian experts, the vice chancellors of the universities, and other persons. They had extensive deliberations with all the people. Even I had the privilege of interacting with them when I was secretary. I am sure that Professor Senapati interacted with them many times to understand the complexities of school education. And we have this report. So with these words, I would like to conclude, and I feel happy that our own SCERT, which was just created we should say days only, a couple of weeks ago, has taken up this big initiative of having this discussion on the national education policy. And we are looking forward to your recommendations to take then concrete steps for moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your comprehensive analysis of national education policy in context of JNK-UT. So we are trying our level best to come up with concrete steps in terms of implementation of national education policy.